Is this correct assumption, or is it a correct statement that with corruption, Zimbabwe is at war with itself? I'll start with you, Elias.
Thanks, Blessed. That's a good summary of the issues at stake. When you're saying Zimbabwe is at war with itself, it's actually true because COVID is killing, sorry, not COVID, but corruption has become more dangerous than COVID itself. So it's Zimbabwe at war. You are very right there.
Um, Hopewell, the man who has set Twitter, social media, ablaze, and have proven to most of us that you don't need to own a media house to be able to stand in the gap and play a role against corruption. Just take us through, in your view, is our country at war with itself at the moment?
I think I would say that the government is at war with the people because this corruption is centralized in government. And money that is being looted, for instance, what we have seen with the COVID gate lootings, is money that is meant to fund hospitals so that people can get healthcare. So when government does that and doesn't act, as we have seen, the Minister of Health, who is responsible, the architect of these scandals, is still in cabinet. When they don't act, it means that it is the government that is at war against the people.
Wow. So I want us to get into how the COVID gate has unfolded. Can you just give us the synopsis or the understanding of where exactly we are going to and coming from in terms of COVID gate? Maybe you can just give us a small the pointers, exactly what it entails.
I think what the looting of COVID gate did was to give us a small window of opportunity to understand how government is being run across board. What we've managed to get so far is the issues around the Minister of Health. There's much more in other ministries, and that stuff is going to come out. But if you look at what was happening, it was a case where briefcase companies were being set up. Companies with no record of trading whatsoever. For instance, drugs. It is no record of trading. Jaji in Namibia has no record of trading. The common denominator is that these people have got access to the presidency and cabinet through the Minister of Health, Obadiah Moyo. You would then give these companies contracts without going to tender. You would violate every good governance tenet, and you'd make sure that these companies, which had inflated prices of drugs and masks, were paid. You would personally push, as we have seen in the court documents, that these companies are paid. So those are some of the things that we've seen so far in terms of how it's being done. But I would add that what it shows is that the government is corrupt. And it is no appetite to deal with the corruption, because the minute we started putting out evidence, if it was a normal government, they would have started acting and dealing with the issues. But they haven't. Obadiah Moyo is still Minister of Health. Right now, if you go into hospitals, there are no nurses, doctors are going on strike, and there's a direct link to the looting and the failure to pay these health workers well, because money that is meant to pay health workers, money that is meant to buy drugs, you go into hospitals, they have no painkillers, they have no bandages, they have no gloves. That money is what is being looted through this inflation of prices, through the setting up of briefcase companies, which, by the way, the Vice President, Kembo Mohadi, addressed and acknowledged in a memo which was written to Cabinet.
Elias, how did you get to this COVID gate, and how have you been, sending it out to the people? How have you covered this, and what have been the challenges?
Well, Blessed, I'm a journalist, and I believe the role of the media is to dig deeper, expose these things, so that the people, the citizens, are informed, and so that they make informed decisions in whatever they'll be doing. So when we got wind of what was happening, our duty as reporters, as journalists, was to expose a lack of due processes in procurement of COVID-19 PPEs. So we went out there, questioned relevant authorities, spoke to various sources, and that's when we got those announcements from government authorities with inflated prices, and we thought that was wrong. It was like robbing the poor, because it's government which should represent the people. So that's how we got the information, and we are still digging deeper because we feel this is just a tip of an iceberg. More things could be happening.
There's this concerted attack on journalists where they say that after you have exposed these issues of corruption, people don't want to deal with the corruption. They want to deal with you for exposing it. How have you been taking that?
No. I don't buy into all those things. Blessed. I'm a journalist, and in situations or in a crisis, I should be seen marching in front. The problem we have in Zimbabwe is there's polarization, right? Where everything is seen through some specific lenses. It's either you are ZANU or you are ZANUPF or you are MDC. If you are in MDC, it's either you are pro-Chamisa or, everything. If you are in ZANUPF, it's either you are pro-ED or pro-Chiwenga. So everything in Zimbabwe has been, put in these, lenses. But then we need to be, to work outside that. As journalists, I don't really blame them. It's polarization, and it will come to an end. And I believe it's the work which should speak for yourself. I don't have to speak, but the works should speak. So I don't care about what people think. All I care is exposing corruption.
You've also been attacked. Press conferences held in your name, and this did not stop you. Now, what are you not afraid?
This happens all the time. Today, actually, an organization linked to ZANUPF held a press conference attacking me. I'm not bothered by those things because it's actually good that they do that, because it exposes that they are not interested in addressing the issues of corruption. They are interested in attacking the individual. I've been called a British spy, I've been called an American spy, I've been called gay, I've been called a fraudster, I've been called all sorts of things. It comes on the territory of being journalist. What matters is the truth. And when someone calls you gay and you're not gay, and someone calls you a British spy when you're not a British spy, why should you be bothered about that? The idea is to try to distract you, to create a sideshow where you get distracted and you stop focusing on the issues of corruption. I'm not bothered by that. I focus on the issues.
The issue that ZANU-PF raised is that, in fact, your submissions were shallow because you wanted to link the first family to corruption merely because of pictures, and pictures do not speak.
Let's go back to what actually happened before they started misrepresenting issues. A letter was released by the presidential spokesperson, signed by the president's son, Colin, saying that he was not linked in any way to the convicted criminal called Deli Shingwaya, who was the front for Drugs International, which is also known as Drugs Consult, which had entered into a fraudulent deal worth 60 million with the Zimbabwean government. When that letter was issued, he said he had no relationship whatsoever with this convicted criminal, whether business or social. Now, if you then come across pictures of somebody who said they have no social relationship with somebody, and you see them in China, you see them on a plane, you see them having dinners, you see them dancing together, having fun, pictures become relevant because they show that what has been said is not correct. And that is why we produced those pictures, and that is why they've gone quiet, because they realized that what they said was not correct.
You in your statement, you say that a press statement was released by the presidential spokesperson and signed by Colin. And you also, on one of your Twitter accounts, you actually had two letters and you were looking at, can you take us through that?
What happened was the day when the press statement by the president's son, Collins, was released by the presidential spokesperson, George Charamba, supposedly the company purportedly calling itself Drugs released a statement as well, distancing itself from the political elites in Zimbabwe, the president, his children. It said it had nothing to do with them. And then when I looked at the two letters, I did what's called textual analysis. I then realized that both letters were written by the same person. And then I put it back to them to say the letters that have been produced by the presidential spokesperson and by the company so-called drugs were actually written by the same person. And they haven't denied that. If they had denied, would have produced the evidence. I mean, the evidence is out there because you can do a textual analysis and you can see the words that are being used. You know, a company in Switzerland using the word first family. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Elias,
Yeah.
when the letters were released, and as a journalist, you had already put out a story and you had established this link, and when the letters were released, what did this scare you? Did it make you think like you got it wrong?
Yeah, look, when those letters were released, myself as a reporter, I had to report on them. There was nothing wrong. There is nothing ridiculous about us writing the story on, drugs. There is nothing wrong. Look, as a journalist, I'm investigating corruption. And corruption is happening where people are entrusted to power. It's happening within the government, where processes are not followed. So I followed that. I had to pin my stories on what was happening in government. I did not pin my stories on what was happening to individuals. So when the letters came, I just reported that so-and-so is saying this, and so-and-so is, Drugs is saying this, Collins is saying this. And my duty is just to help society to regain belief in itself. And that's what I'm doing. I'm still doing it anyway. Mm-hmm. So when the letters were released, we wrote stories for people to judge.
But after this textual analysis that Hopewell is talking about, which I think is an amazing tool for journalism, but after that textual analysis, what then was your next move, after realizing that these letters could have originated allegedly from the same source?
Focusing on those letters was going to move us from the real issues. So instead of focusing on the letters, I focused on what was happening in the finance ministry, what was happening in the health ministry. I was focusing on ZAC. What were they doing?
Speak of ZAC, what are they doing?
Right. In as far as I know, they are saying they're investigating. And they have been calling, I think, witnesses, several of them, over this issue. I don't know how far they have gone by now, but I think, to me, there is so much pressure for them to handle this issue, to expose it, to bring it to finality, if I may say so.
Do you have confidence, Rob, in ZAC? Because most of the times they are saying to people, bring evidence. Is it not their duty to then investigate and bring in evidence where an allegation has been made?
I have no confidence in ZAC. I must say I have respect for the chairperson of ZAC, but I understand that she operates in a system and I think she's constrained by that system. In a normal society, I don't know about my colleague Elias, whether he was called, but in a normal society, what we did, ZAC should have called us to say, what do you have? Can we share what you have? And that never happened. And to me, that was the first signal that there's no appetite to really deal with this issue. The second signal came when, if you look in the charge sheets, the case brought against the Minister of Health says a lot of things, and the case brought against Delish Ngwaya, the convicted criminal who was the front for drugs, it's so weak. They deliberately avoided dealing with the real issues. So, for instance, the Minister of Health went to the Permanent Secretary and presented an invoice and asked him to pay an invoice for which was just below $1 million. The Permanent Secretary says that the Minister of Health lied to him that there were 15,000 COVID-19 test kits at the airport. And the Permanent Secretary says when he went to the airport, he discovered that there were only 3,000. That's a case of fraud. And I don't understand why ZAC did not include that, because that's fraud. If you misrepresent that there's 15,000 and the permanent secretary goes to check before he pays and he discovers that there's only 3,000, that's fraud. And it brings us to a different issue. The next set of investigations that's taking place now is how donated goods, COVID-19 donated goods, were being sold. There is now an element which is still being investigated by journalists, which says that the misrepresentation between 15,000 and 3,000 pointed towards that deficit of 12,000 being covered with donated goods that were being resold back to government. So I would have expected ZAC to dig more, and I would have expected them to bring the charge of fraud on that specific issue. And I hope that if they have decency, they are going to ask the National Prosecuting Authority to amend the charges, because that can be done.
Blessed.
Sorry, just viewers are asking you to just put the mic closer to you so that they can actually hear you more. But you, Elias, sure, please go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to respond to Hope, who is saying he was expecting ZAC to call them. I don't expect ZAC to call me. I'm not a witness in this. I wrote a story. I exposed corruption. I played my role as a journalist. It's now up to ZAC to use such leads to investigate. There is no need for ZAC to come to me and say, we want, evidence. I don't have evidence. All I have is an exposure. This is what is happening. I'm pointing to irregularities. I'm pointing to abuse of power. I'm pointing to criminality within the government institutions. They must act.
Yep. You look at it where Hopewell was saying that the Minister of the Permanent Secretary of Finance, I think you also reported that, went there and discovered that there were 3,000 instead of 15,000. I mean, is that not the point that if he is clean, was supposed to come out to say, to blow the whistle?
That's the PEMSEC.
Yes.
No, if we are using what we got from his statement, from what our sources are saying, he is a key witness, he is a star witness in this issue, and I think he is ready to review more. The fact that instead of getting 15,000 test kits, there were only 3, that's a criminal issue.
But if you had not written about this and exposed this would have gone quiet. He wouldn't have said anything. Is that not it?
That is why we are saying that's the duty of the media. We mustn't sleep on duty. We don't play a lapdog role. We play a watchdog role. We are keeping our eyes on that, and we are making sure that nothing happens. So it's up to ZAC now to say this one is wrong. We don't charge people, yes, we get disappointed when we expose a story and then nothing happens, but that's not my duty. My duty is to expose, period. I don't have arresting powers or convicting powers. No, my duty is to expose. Now it's up to them, to state institutions. Actually, if they don't act, then they're exposing themselves.
Is it sufficient, Hopewell, to deal with this matter on the level of the Minister of Health only, without looking at people who knew this information but still sat on it over this period of time until to a point where $1 million was actually paid to an account in Hungary?
I think what it shows, Blessed, it shows a tragic failure of governance in the Mnangagwa administration. Because to start with, amounts that go into millions before any company does business of that nature with any government, the state security apparatus are supposed to investigate it, to look at its track record, to check whether it is a proper and fit company. It just took me less than 10 minutes to find out that drugs does not exist in United Arab Emirates, where they claimed that they existed. It took me less than 10 minutes to find out that drugs was using a residential address in the United Arab Emirates. It took me less than 20 minutes to find out that drugs does not exist in Hungary. It was only set up on the 20th of February 2020. It took me less than 20 minutes to find out that the address they used in Hungary, it's a block of flats, and a dilapidated block of flats. It took me less than a day to find out that Drax was a shelf company in Switzerland. It took me less than 12 hours to find out the Jaji, the other Namibian company that was used, was a shelf company, has never traded since it was established in 2015. It took me less than a day to find out that the Standard Bank account that they had put on the documents was fake. It doesn't exist. It was a personal account for the guy who was fronting, but it was shut down last year in 2019 in March, and yet it was put on documents as the receiving account in 2020. So state security would have done that work. Who then violated the reports that were done by state security? If you read an article which was penned by my colleague Elias, it clearly states that they were told twice that this company is not fit for purpose, but they went ahead. Who gave the permission to go against a security report? Those are the questions that they should be answering.
Elias, he speaks about the story that you did, and this is where I got the question to put to Hopewell, popularly known as Daddy Hop. But do you think it's sufficient, for government to deal with the DJ Biscuit as we say he is, and not look at the whole entire system? Because I don't think a minister, from my experience as a journalist, and I'm sure as yours as well, an entire minister has sole power and sole capacity to trash a security intelligence report in government.
Yeah, Blessed, you are very right there. I think government in this case needs to handle this thing, as a system. It needs to handle it carefully. When we were investigating this COVID gate, we went as far as interviewing some sources in PRAS, Procurement Regulation Authority, who told us that procurement is solely done by the line ministry, and in this case, it's the health ministry. You get it? So, if Minister Obadiah Moyo ignored this state security report and then ignored the red flags which are stated in Guamatanga's statement, and also ignored the PRAS, because PRAS was actually, it said the ministry's got the final say. So it means bring bring Obadiah to account, and then you actually explain what was going on.
But is it sufficient, Elias? I mean, honestly speaking, for government to simply say that at the end of the day, in the entirety of its system, to simply say that even if Guamatanga knew, he knew because he says it in his report, that he knew that this company was fraudulent, and still someone insisted in buying, and he paid, even with the knowledge. Does that sit well with you?
It doesn't sit well, but then press hard on Obadiah. You review everything. Treating Obadiah with kids' gloves will also expose that something was happening. So what is needed right now is to make sure that Obadiah is under pressure. Obadiah and the Ministry of Health are under pressure because they are, the procurement, they procure for the ministry. So you press Obadiah, Obadiah will release everything. If we don't press Obadiah, then so it ends up like.
Do you buy this statement from PRAS? I mean, what is its purpose therefore? Therein, if line ministries procure by themselves.
Yeah, I think it just points towards how broken the system of government is in the Mnangagwa administration. The president himself is not asking the questions that he should be asking. In a normal society, when a government minister has been charged, they are relieved of their duties. They should resign. If they don't, they should be fired. So the main question becomes, why is the president holding on to Obadiah Moyo? Why is the president protecting Obadiah Moyo in light of all this overwhelming evidence that has been put before the president through the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission to say that this is what the minister did? The organization that investigated this company and issued a report, according to Elias, to say that this company is not fit for purpose, is housed in the president's office. So what does it say when the president does not fire a government minister who violated a report that was issued by the president's office?
Some want to say that it's not enough to just say Obadiah and firing Obadiah, because this is a system. Would you agree with that?
Look, overall, people are frustrated. We are all frustrated with the system of governance in this country. We know that ZANUPF has been running this country for 40 years. And so the omissions and commissions are entirely ZANUPF's. But the way I looked at this specific issue and the way I look at issues as a journalist is I want to put issues on the table when I have the evidence, like what we did with this particular case. We are frustrated with ZANUPF and its lack of ability to run government professionally, to stop corruption, to stop incompetence, to stop tribalism, to stop clansmanship. But we need to bring evidence on specific issues that we accuse them of doing, and this is what we did. And more evidence is going to keep coming. It's not just the Ministry of Health. There are so many ministries that are responsible for the rot that we're seeing in this government. The next step will be looking at how money meant for COVID is being spent and how other ministries have been abusing it. The evidence is now there. And so it's a systematic problem. It's a problem that must be dealt with systematically. It's not just Obadiah Moyo who has been doing this. It's only that he's the first person who has been put out there and exposed with evidence. But more evidence is going to come. And again, the buck stops with the appointing authority, the president. If he doesn't fire Obadiah Moyo as he has done, people can draw a legitimate conclusion that he knew something about it. Why is he not firing him? He's been talking about being anti-corrupt. He's been talking about people coming forward with evidence because he says that corruption is the problem in this country that must be dealt with. They removed the former president on the basis that he was surrounded by corrupt people. Now we have evidence that the president is surrounded by corrupt people. Why is he not firing them?
Your view to that?
Yes, what he's saying, he's frustrated with ZANUPF, frustrated with the whole system. Right, that's hope. I'm a journalist. I don't compartmentalize corruption to say it's happening in this part. For now, it's happening in ZANUPF. But surely, if you look also at the other end, it's also happening in the councils. So my duty now, it's not like to show that I'm frustrated with this party or this party. No, I'm here to expose corruption. Whether it's in ZANUPF or in MDC, I don't care. My duty is just to expose corruption so that it's the people who should decide. It's not us. We are here to expose it so that when they go to vote, come 2023, they must make some informed decisions based on our investigations.
The media's role is that to conscientize people in a democratic society so that when they vote, they don't do so blindly. But I want you to look at this, Elias. We have NASA. There was massive corruption. In fact, the Vela spoke about a number of corrupt issues where the former minister forced NASA to pay over 200,000 to a school in her constituency, that is Petronella Kagoni, for campaign purposes. Same also happened with Patrick Joao, and these things have not been dealt with. This cherry picking of who is arrested and who is not arrested, what impact or effect does it have in the president's call to fight corruption?
That's what I'm saying, Blessed. It's not my duty to prescribe a solution. In NASA, I am one of those who exposed NASA. And I've exposed many other scandals. It's the duty of the citizens now, after we have laid down all this evidence, all these things, all these scandals, we are piling them like this. That's our duty as the media, to show them. Now when it comes to voting, they must make an informed decision. I cannot prescribe. I cannot say, look, because of this, don't vote for them. It's up to them.
My question, Elias, was what does this do to the credibility of fight against corruption?
Well, if the president doesn't act on all these things, then it means you suffer, a big crisis, legitimate crisis on the fight on graft. It will expose him. So I think the media is also playing a big role in making sure that he sees these things. Maybe he was not aware of these things. Yeah? Let's say he is not aware. But like what Hope said, that the president's office is the president's office, which actually vets these issues, is in his office. I think a report must have gone to him. So if he doesn't act on this issue, if he doesn't act on many other issues which involve corruption, then it means probably it's a talk show.
Speaking at Transparency International, I think it was a workshop or platform that was held. The president said he was equally unhappy because there was this catch and release. People were being caught and being released. Do you think that there was a genuine statement from the president of this country?
I don't think so, because the ultimate authority in this country is the president. It's either the president has power to make sure that the law is followed, or he doesn't have power, in which case he should resign. I think that the president has power, and I think his statement was disingenuous because he is the one who appoints the prosecutors. He's the one who appoints the judges, the magistrates. He's the one who appoints the chief of police. So how can he fail to have control over the people that he has appointed? So I don't think it was genuine.
So in the issue is that the judiciary is supposed to act independently from the executive, and the prosecutor general also must not be pushed to prosecuting when he feels or she feels that there's no case. So how does the president come into play at this point?
No, it's about the law. If the law says that if I beat up Elias, I should be prosecuted. If I beat up Elias and I'm not prosecuted, the president has a legitimate right to ask why is that this person has beaten up Elias and he has not been prosecuted. He has that duty to ask those questions. But let me take you backwards. The National Prosecutor General in Zimbabwe, Mr. Hodze, is on record saying that he's also frustrated because the political cartels have captured his office. They have captured, I think he mentioned the police, he mentioned the judiciary, he mentioned the media. So as I said, it's a systematic problem which requires the president to discharge his duties diligently and make sure that the law is followed. When people say that Zimbabwe is a lawless society, they are pointing to these weaknesses which are self-evident. That someone loots X amount of money, which is meant to buy drugs for the poor. Right now, if you go to Harare Hospital, there are no nurses. The emergency pediatric ward center has no nurses. If you go with a child who requires emergency treatment today, they will die. So the president has a legitimate right to ask questions and say, why has this not been done? Because it's depriving the hospitals of medication and people are dying because of that. It's depriving the people who are doing the work to look after our sick citizens' salaries. Why has this not been done? So why is the president not asking these questions? Why is he not pulling out the issues that are self-evident, that have been put on the table by the media, to say this is what the media has said? It has provided the evidence. Can you come here, National Prosecutor General? What is the problem? What is stopping you from prosecuting these people? If he doesn't do that, then the citizen has a legitimate right to say the president is involved.
Indeed, everything that we're speaking about, at the end of the day, Hopewell and Elias, you're putting it back to the door of the citizen, that what we have done is given you the information, and it is up to you to demand accountability and transparency to the people that you have already elected into office. But you do also then do you not have a role to play in investigating where these matters are failing?
We haven't stopped investigating those matters, Blessed.
I mean, to investigate the judiciary itself, to investigate
Yes,
the prosecution.
that's where I'm going right now. Like, after this case, we discovered, we are still investigating, but we discovered that something is happening in our judiciary. There's need for thorough investigation there. We discovered that something is happening even in ZAC. I think I posted something soon after Obadiah was given a 50,000 bail. I said our next port of call is to investigate ZAC itself, investigate the prosecuting authority itself, because we believe something is not right there. We believe, like what Hope has just said, that the cases are just too weak. You know, it simply takes I'm not a lawyer, but if I was given that task to prosecute Obadiah, I think by now he could have been in jail. You know, yes, I understand some people are saying you don't have to have emotions when dealing with the law. Yes, it's true. But there is so much incriminating evidence on what was happening. Mm-hmm. So I believe it's time that we investigate. Let's investigate the prosecuting authority. Let's investigate ZAC. What are they doing?
The Standard writes a story on its front page over this weekend, where Obadiah Moyo got a 5-star treatment at Roseville Police Station. Some said that he actually got a bed to come in. As a journalist going through these stories, how do you relate with it in the circumstances of fighting corruption?
Yeah, I feel this issue really exposes government, because it seems they are, some animals are more equal than others in this case. I believe if he was taken in by police over corruption, or by ZAC over corruption, he was supposed to get the same treatment that others got. The same treatment that politician B gets, the same treatment that politician C gets, despite the rank. In this case, really it was shocking and sad as well, because there is unfairness there over the treatment of Obadiah. West, when he appeared in court, he came there, somebody whom we believe is coming from a police station, driving his own official vehicle. It was also shocking, and it shows lack of appetite to resolve these things.
Hopewell, Tendai Biti was arrested and slept in police cells for singing by corner of by Harvest House, together with Lynette Karirenyi and Gladys Hlachwayo. Job Scala told a horrendous story when his lawyers were waiting for him at Rotten Row, but he was whisked out, for political issues. And here we are talking about a serious scourge, corruption. Guy walks in with a box full of money, actually, to be heard on corruption. He comes in with a whole box of 50,000 pound notes. Can we talk about that?
I think it's good that those things are happening, because they confirm what we've been saying all along. We've been making these assertions because we knew them to be true. But when they play out in public, as they did on Saturday, it's very satisfying for us as citizens to say this is what we've been saying was happening, and the government and ZANUPF were saying these things were not happening, it's not true. Not only that, there is also something that people should not skate around. People that are close to the president are the ones that are getting this sort of treatment. If you look at a minister like Priska Mfumira, she was accused. Before she went to court, she was fired. When she went to court, she was locked up. She was moving around in a prison truck. comes Obadiah, who's a clansman of the president, very close to the president. He drives to court in his own car. He comes with a box with money worth 50,000 Zimbabwean dollars. It just shows you the brazenness that they're saying to the citizens, we don't care about what you think. We are going to do what we want. And there's nothing that you can do about it. And it's self-evident that there's nothing that we are able to do about it because we're just watching in disbelief. We shake our heads and we walk away from it. That's the pain of it. But more importantly, these actions have dire consequences for the citizen. People are dying. When hospitals were shut down for 4 months, they were shut down because of this looting, which is being done by people like Obadiah Moyo, who is close to the president. And people were dying by their thousands every week. It shows that the government does not care. It says, we don't care, you can die. We're going to loot money that is meant for your health care, and there's nothing you can do about it. And when the media writes about it, we're just going to choreograph a court process where these people go to court and eventually they are released and they can carry on with the looting.
Elias Mambo, a box full of cash, walks into court and out, and RBZ is looking for money and busy putting out statements about people on the black market and hoarding cash.
Yeah, I think I also commented on that after seeing that picture, that what we have right now is systematic pillaging and plunder, and I feel something has to be done. How could a home minister bring 50,000 of bond notes? Isn't it the courts they're supposed even to swipe? I think, yeah, maybe it's a show of power as well, that I'm in charge. Yeah. So it needs exposure. What we did as the media was to expose that. Took pictures of that box, the aides carrying the box into the court. Yeah, that's what we can do.
ZANUPF and government has over this years said that sanctions are the root cause of our financial and economic problems in this country. Now, with these issues that you're uncovering, and I know there are other things that you actually know that are going through in government, but you can't publish them now because you don't have the tangible evidence. But with all that you know, what is the biggest problem that Zimbabwe faces today?
I think, to be honest with you, Blessed, the ruling party is to look internal at the moment. Let's forget about external issues. Let's forget about the sanctions. Let's get internal. Let's look inward at this moment. What is it that we are doing right? Let's concentrate on the right things and correct the wrong things. Then the world outside world will be able to appreciate. So it's a challenge to the president, Mnangagwa, to look internally, come up with solutions so that you resolve internal issues first. Corruption has got nothing to do with the West or the East or the South or whatever. Corruption has got to do with the internal people, the people whom we entrusted with the power. So let's look internally, let's have homegrown solutions, then we will start shouting sanctions.
For a moment, I thought you were going to say, let's have hope-grown solution. But your recollection, I mean, your view on that issue of corruption versus sanctions that government is talking about. What is your view, really?
The sanctions argument is for people who are not educated, people who are not exposed, people who don't understand issues. People that are educated, that understand issues, understand very well that Zimbabwe has got enough resources to look after itself, even with those sanctions in place, and give a better life to its citizens. Let me give the viewer a window to get some bit of understanding. The 5 referral hospitals in Zimbabwe are Harare Hospital, Pararenyatwa Hospital, Chitungwiza Hospital, United Bulawayo Hospital, and Mpilo Hospital. The 5 of them, they only require 50 million a year to run properly without any shortages. Only 50 million a year. The drugs deal alone was worth 60 million, which was going to be looted. And that would have covered the 5 biggest hospitals in Zimbabwe and would still have 10 million to spare, to use for other things. So sanctions is an argument for people who are not educated, who don't understand, who can be manipulated. Zimbabwe has got enough money to look after itself without even borrowing money from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The figures are there. You just do the figures. Zimbabwe produces enough as we speak today. And the chairperson for ZAC has said so. But the problem is corruption. Money is being looted. And the government of the day was seconded into power through ZANUPF. So it's a ZANUPF problem that they must resolve. They should not attack people who are bringing evidence to the fore. If they are serious about this country, if they are serious about saving the lives of Zimbabweans, they should attack the problem, not the messenger. They spend time and hours and loads of acres in newspapers attacking us for telling them that you are looting, you are killing people. Looting kills people, Blessed. Corruption kills people. The grandmother in Gwanda, the grandmother in Dotito, the grandmother in Mtoko does not have access to a painkiller today if they went to the district hospital. It is because of looting. It kills people. And citizens should take it seriously because these people are killing us.
We can't breathe. That is the message I'm getting from the. But Elias, let's look at moving forward as a country. What do you want to see happening, especially in this area of corruption? Really, I know there has been issues to say that because ZANUPF is under serious sanctions, so now there are people are then looking for ways of survival, and this is what is breeding this corruption. So if sanctions go, things will be better.
Blessed, let's remove this thing, the political things. Let's focus on real issues. If we're fighting corruption, let's focus on the fight against corruption. Let's remove this issue of ZANUPF or this other political party. No, I believe the duty of government is to make sure that the citizens get what they deserve. The citizens get what they voted for. The citizens get bread and butter. So if we continue not talking about corruption, it means it's only a few people, the chosen few, who will benefit. So our duty as the media is to make sure that we keep on hammering on the right thing. We keep on talking about this thing so that those who are in power may realize that what they are doing is wrong. May those who are in power may realize that they have actually failed to fulfill their electoral promises. Remember their electoral promises, and we are keeping check on these things. So it's up to them. If they failed, like in this case, poor health delivery system, that means there's a minus there in their electoral manifestos where they promised 100% health care, a proper health care. So there's need to keep hammering on those people. But the moment that we politicize this thing, then we are lost. I don't believe it will be the right way. Do
you think that there is an ability, or we can actually end corruption without the political will? Because it appears that it's driven through political muscle for its continued survival.
Maybe we need to look at why are these people corrupt. From my investigations that I'm doing, it's because they want to maintain power. Money amounts to power. You get it? So the moment we keep on exposing them, then even if they have got money, they will not win. The people will choose the right leaders. You get it?
Do you agree?
I think I disagree with Elias on that one because elections, ZANUPF started losing elections in 2000 and they are still in power today. And they were so brazen in 2008. Over 300 people were killed. I did a documentary film called A Violent Response on that. So whether ZANUPF wins or loses, it remains in power because they control the state apparatus, the security apparatus, and I think the main problem is that people loot because they're greedy, not because they want to maintain power. Because if you loot and you go and buy a Rolls Royce, it doesn't help you to maintain power. It's just because you're greedy. If you loot and you go and build mansions in Dubai, as they are doing, if you go and build mansions in South Africa, as they're doing, it means you're just greedy. So perhaps the citizen needs to ask themselves a question: why is it this continues to happen under our watch? What can we do as citizens to stop this, to stop the looting, to make sure that citizens in Mnangagwa, citizens in Luveve, don't go without clean water? Today, people in Bulawayo are dying. Kids are dying because there's no clean water. It is the responsibility of the government under the Water Act to provide a water source and councils distribute. Government is failing to do that. How much does it cost to build a dam? And then you juxtapose that against what has been looted. We had billions of dollars thrown into command agriculture. Our granaries are empty. We can't even provide people with roller mill. People have to queue for days on end to get roller mill. Right now, as I was coming for this interview, coming to your studio, I came across queues and queues of fuel. That is the cost of corruption. That is the total result and consequential reflection of the looting that is taking place. That is what the citizen must understand. And this will not go away if we just write about it and nothing is done. Elias, myself, Mdudus, and many others can write about it, but if there's no action taken, either by the state or the citizen, nothing will change. Corruption has been with us from day one. I remember when I was a little kid, there was the Pawani scandal in the 80s. It continues to this very day because the citizen has decided to stand aside and watch, because the state itself is corrupt. So the citizen needs to ask this question: what is it that we need to do to provide a solution to this problem that has been with us for the past 40 years?
Surely, let me just try and just go through the comments that have been coming through, but I can't go through all of them because this has been an amazing response to this program, and the comments keep moving massively. Fungai Oliver Mboreku says that good job, guys, investigate Zak and the judiciary. They need to be investigated. Tatenda Trishnat Matitira says that Hopewell, my minister of honesty and transparency. Gentlemen, Mutaura Chokwadi, we can't breathe. This is Gabriel. Then there's someone who says that the president should not be appointing the prosecutor general or the judges. They must be accountable to parliament. Elias?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that person. Why? Because it brings in the concept of a captured judiciary, concept of a captured prosecuting authority. Let the parliament decide. But it comes with us changing the laws. I think it's an issue that is happening like right now, the amendment number 2 issue. So we need to be careful. And the role of the media, again, just as I was saying, it's to expose, it's to tell, it's to show that the president should not appoint. Because the moment the president appoints, these things, like we are witnessing right now, will haunt him.
Should Parliament have the power, be given the power to actually veto a presidential appointment in terms of the judge and the prosecutor general?
Yes, all appointments to do with the state, and I would go as far as saying even the parastatals, the CEO of Zim Papers, the CEO of Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, of National Railways of Zimbabwe, they should all be appointed through Parliament. They should be interviewed, and the citizens should see these live interviews so that it instills confidence. But what President Mnangagwa has been doing is to undo those constitutional requirements with his amendment number 2, which is trying to push through, which gives him all the power to appoint and disappoint. And what it does is that when you have a corrupt president it means the whole system becomes corrupt because he appoints whoever he wants. So it is important for us to have a system where appointments are transparent. In fact, the problem with this government at the moment is that a lot of these corrupt things that are happening, some of them, for instance, the spending of huge amounts of money, it's supposed to go through parliament. But the president and his cabinet, they're just violating those requirements.
And there's a constitutional amendment that seeks to take away that power from parliament to look at those issues.
Yes, why would they want to do that? They would want to do that because they know that parliament would stop them from being corrupt. If they wanted to serve the people and serve the people alone, other than being corrupt, why would they want to take that power away from parliament? We vote for members of parliament so that they can go and represent us in parliament, represent our interests in parliament, and so that they can also come back to us and report back and get feedback from us, which they take back to parliament. But if you remove that power from the members of parliament, they become rubber stamps. What's the point?
Elias, I will give you an opportunity to give me your closing remarks as a journalist and as a citizen of this country. Because most of the times as journalists, we always say that, we are not going to get involved in these issues because our job is to be neutral. But I strongly believe as a journalist, the truth is not neutral. We stand by the truth. So if we stand by the truth, we can actually find, make a statement, moving statement that dwells based on the truth and evidence that we have.
Yeah, Blessed, you are right there. I believe in speaking truth to power. And as a journalist, I believe that's what I will continue doing. I will not stop investigating corruption because of threats or because of fear. No, I will continue doing that because I believe we as journalists are the most sensitive focal point of our society. The society should get, it's our chance to re-educate the society. And that's what we'll keep on doing. We won't stop. No matter what happens, we'll continue speaking truth to power. And corruption, we want to make sure that we expose. We will leave no stone unturned. We'll make sure that we will fight. We will make sure that we will know. The best thing with investigative journalism is we get the documents that we want through whistleblowers, and we'll continue getting them. So there's no way to hide. There's no way to hide.
Yeah, I'm just tempted as you speak about getting the documents that we want through whistleblowers. I'm just tempted to say that when the government, the new dispensation started, there was less of this leaking of sensitive documents and all thus. What does it tell you that this is beginning to happen now? Does that give you any signal or any, excitement in terms of investigative journalism?
Well, yeah, it doesn't give me excitement.
I said in terms of investigative journalism.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
When the new dispensation came in, yes, it's true. We were coming from the Mugabe regime, the Mugabe time, where there was fear, and we got into the Mnangagwa time, where he promised that people will work freely and independently. And he promised, that he will enhance democracy. And to a certain extent, I think people are doing so that we see these things. These things have been happening, Blessed. They've been there. Looting has always been there. It's only that there were safeguards, that were there. But now, when people say enough is enough, you get these things. You get them.
Yeah, Hopewell, before your closing remarks, but this new regime of leaking of documents, does it give you, some excitement in terms of investigative journalism to say what is causing these leaks? What might be the issue behind the issue? Because remember, when the new dispensation came in, it was very difficult to get a leak from government. It was very difficult to get these contradictory statements within government. They appeared to be in unison.
I think there are a number of issues which we can link to trying to explain why these documents are available today. I think the first thing is that when President Mnangagwa came into power after the coup, there was a belief built on what he was saying on his mantras that he was going to change the way ZANUPF would run this country. That has not been true. In fact, he has taken us backwards, way back than where Mugabe was. Things are much worse. The second thing is that a lot of bureaucrats, not everyone in the Zimbabwean government is a bad person. There are good people in that government. There are good people who thought that President Mnangagwa was going to stand by his word and are now disappointed that they are serving a corrupt government, a government that is looting left, right and center, money meant for children as medications. And those people now are saying, we can't carry on watching like this. And naturally, they do what any other good citizen should do by exposing these things.
Yeah. So, give me in your closing remarks, Hopewell. What is the way forward for Zimbabwe, and do you think, or do you have any confidence in the systems that are there? Given that those who have tried to speak against corruption in ZANUPF, that is Godfrey Chin'ono and Matutu, were fired from the party. As you said, you feel ZAC is constrained, the police equally the same, and the judiciary, we've got no hope in what I got from the issues that you were raising. So,
I think I would say, actually, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think I would like to send a message to those who own ZANUPF, those who have the power to stop this, to say that this kind of looting is not sustainable, to say that the citizen has been docile for 40 years. There will come a time when the citizen cannot be docile anymore because of their circumstances. I want to say to the politicians in ZANUPF, and especially to the military, because we know they hold power in ZANUPF. I want to say this to them, gentlemen, and I say gentlemen deliberately because they're mainly gentlemen. I want to say to them, gentlemen, you have looted a lot of money. You have an opportunity to keep what you have looted by doing the right thing. If you do not do the right thing, you are either going to lose power at some point, or you are going to die. It's a natural process. We are all going to die. You will lose everything. Your children will lose everything. It's better to stop the looting that's taking place now, address the issues conclusively, and make sure that the citizen comes along with you. If that does not happen, a day will come where you are going to lose everything, because we even know where these monies are. We even know that a lot of this money is in a bank called Bank One in Mauritius. We know this. The movement of money is the easiest thing to trace. So my message to them is, do the right thing, bring the citizen with you, make sure that the country does not implode, because we are a few months away from imploding. There won't be money to pay civil servants. There won't be money to provide social services. There won't be money to provide healthcare services. At some point, the people will say, and they will go into the streets. So my appeal to the president and to the military is, do the right thing, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you for joining me on the situation right now here on Heart and Soul TV and Radio.